Partial funding for the operation of this channel is provided by the City of Oceanside.
The following program does not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or policies of the City of Oceanside, its elected officials, KOCT, its board of directors, or staff.
You're watching KOCT, the Oceanside channel. This program brought to you by the caring hands of Tri-City Medical Center. We're here for a healthier North County.
Welcome to the Voice of Oceanside. The summer season's almost here, and when you live in a city called Oceanside, it's no surprise that the beach is a favorite place to spend time in the sun. Our local Oceanside lifeguards, Sergeant Ian Slover and Sergeant Mason Turvey, join our show to tell us what to expect and how to prepare for this upcoming summer. Welcome, Sergeants.
Hello.
Hello there.
Well, it's a beach, it's made of sand, and even though not everyone realizes it, that sand needs to be replenished. So let's start with that. Where do we stand with sand replenishment this year?
Okay, so in this spring we had a dredge company come in, and they come in every year to dredge out the harbor mouth to make it a safe waterway. And so in the process of that, they remove the sand from the harbor mouth and then redistribute it on the beach. So we've had a considerable amount of sand replenished north of the pier and up to a few hundred yards south of the pier. So our southern beaches, anything south of Wisconsin Street, has not been replenished this year. So the sand levels are sort of mediocre at best right now.
What determines how much sand goes away? Is it the harshness of the winter in terms of winds? Is it currents? Is it both?
It's really both. It's one, the swell direction, the size of the swell, and then the wave period, so how frequently the waves are coming in. And so all of those factors sort of mix together and determine where the sand's going to push around to.
Now, so you're saying this year is sort of a medium year? Like okay, is that
yeah,
what I'm
it's
hearing?
okay.
Now, what impact does that have on the people who go to the beach? Does it have a surfing impact, a swimming impact, or just space?
It's mostly a space issue. It creates a lot of, I guess, area where everybody's confined to a much smaller area where they want to be at the beach. It's harder for us to move around on the sand when we try to get from one place to another, so it makes it difficult for us to maneuver through the beach, and it also creates, crampedness for the people on the beach where they're not able to spread out and enjoy the time that they have. But it happens every year, and we, try to make the best with what we have.
Okay. Moving now to the water part of the environment, we're not the only ones in the ocean, right? There's marine life in there, and we'll look at it from both sides. There's the positive side of it's a great opportunity to observe marine life, and there's also some risks involved. So let's start with the positive side. What kind of marine life can people expect to see on Oceanside beaches?
On a daily sort of sequence, you can expect to see lots of pelicans, and right now we sort of have a strange influx of pelicans, and they're eating off all these different bait fish, and so there's large flocks of those. And then at the same time, there are also pods of dolphins that can be commonly seen. In the winter and spring months, you can see migrating whales as well. And that sort of is the predominant sea life. Also sea lions.
Now, just addressing the three of those, do any of those ever get in close enough to interact with the swimmers?
Yeah, we have seals that'll come up on the beach, actually, and beach themselves on the sand, and a lot of people want to come down and try to get close to them, take a picture, things like that, which is actually a lot more dangerous than they would realize because they're, a wild animal. And we try to keep people back from them, but, they're going to go there and try to take their pictures and stuff. And there's the occasional dolphins that are in the surf line while there's surfers out there. You'll see them riding through the waves and stuff. And it's a pretty cool thing to watch when you're out in the water. But for the most part, it's never a dangerous interaction. It's just kind of two different things commingling like that.
Now, with the seals up on the beach, the only time I saw that, it was, let's say, the end of the seal. Do they ever come up and then get back alive?
Yeah, they will frequently. If what most people think, they'll come on the beach and they'll tell us, I think there's an injured or hurt seal down on the sand here. When really that's where they live. They live in the water, they live in the beaches, and a lot of times they'll just come out to hang out on the beach to sunbathe for a little while. And usually they'll end up going back with no problem. Occasionally there's some injured sea life that comes up, and we'll contact SeaWorld or whoever the necessary people are, and they'll be able to handle that. But for the most part, they'll come up on the beach and then make their way back to the water soon.
Do people ever try and get up close and personal other than just taking pictures, like trying to assist them back in the water?
Certainly, yes. And that's why we're there. We sort of set up a barrier and try to educate people on the danger of approaching a wild animal.
Yeah, so if people want to be good citizens with this, if they're the first to see it, they should contact the nearest lifeguard, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
And not treat them like a fellow member of the family.
Yeah, because they are wild animals, so we don't know exactly how they will respond.
All right. Let's talk about the risk side. What's out there that swimmers, surfers need to be aware of?
Probably our most frequent interaction as far as a dangerous encounter with people would be our stingray population. They live just in the shallow water, in the hard-packed sand, and while people are moving in and out of the water waist deep all the way to even ankle deep or so, they'll be walking and they'll step on them and get stung. It's a pretty painful. I've personally never been stung, but seen a lot of people that think it's pretty painful. And there's really not a whole lot. You can try to shuffle your feet, they say, in the sand, or stomp your feet to create vibrations on the ground. But that's no proven thing. It's just what hopefully helps to avoid that.
Is this always a potential, or does it happen in like predictable or at least noticeable, waves of events where there's a bad day for that, or a bad week?
When there's warmer water, usually there'll be more stingrays, and then also when you have real low tides like that, it kind of allows people to move out into the area of the water where they normally wouldn't be able to touch because it's so shallow. So people will move out further into the water where it's shallow and eventually step on them. But that's pretty much it.
Do you guys post that if it's likely to happen, or is that just trial and error?
That's not really something we can post. If anyone has a question about it, we can explain the logic to them, but it's not really feasible for us to have signs sort of trying to predict the frequency of stingray encounters.
What happens when you have one? What do you do, other than hop up and down screaming?
We'll usually take them, and the best thing for it is to apply some kind of heat to the area where they've been stung at. The heat helps to break down. It's a protein-based venom that they're stung with, and the heat helps to break it down and create it from circulating through the blood or whatever, and it alleviates a lot of the pain immediately that people will notice as soon as if they can put it in a hot bath or even just a hot bucket of water, or we have hot packs that we can give to people also that will help neutralize a lot of the pain, but it's something they just kind of got to wait it out.
I would assume the sooner the better, right? So this isn't a life-threatening emergency, but this is something you want to pay attention to.
Absolutely.
And either handle it yourself or bring it to the attention of the lifeguard.
Absolutely.
Okay. What else is out there? How about jellyfish?
There's definitely jellyfish. They're also kind of a tidal influx with them. When the currents change, when we get warmer waters from down south, we'll see increases in jellyfish, mostly in the winter months. There's few, if any, of them. But in the summer, they're definitely out there, and they're able to sting you as well, but the pain involved with that is usually much less, and it's kind of just a little rash that within a few, maybe 30 minutes or so, will kind of dissipate, and it shouldn't be painful anymore.
Okay. Is that something that kids should be really worried about? Because there's obviously a lot of real young kids. Do they come in close enough to be where the toddlers are playing in the real shallow surf?
Absolutely. They just get washed in. Wherever the currents are going is where they'll drift. So if they get caught inside the surf line, they'll get pushed in as the waves come through, and they'll wash up on the beaches frequently, and people will see them, and then you'll see them even real shallow, ankle-deep water, or even on the outside where it's a lot deeper and you can't touch and you're swimming.
Sometimes it seems to me that parents, when they have their real little kids on the beach, are concerned only about the drowning issue, in other words. Well, if you're just in a couple inches of water, you're okay. It would seem that a little bit closer supervision might be a wise thing.
Yes,
you
definitely.
guys agree with that?
Yes, certainly.
Absolutely.
Now, the big thing, of course, out there, literally and in people's mind, are sharks. Is it realistic to be concerned about that, or you think it's overblown?
I think it is realistic to be concerned with sharks and to understand that they are a very integral part to our ecology, our marine ecology. As far as being attacked by a shark, the statistics on that are very, very low of your chances of actually being attacked. And when someone does get attacked by a shark, it's usually because the shark has mistaken them for another type of food, usually a seal or something. So it's
That probably doesn't help much, though, if you're the victim.
no, it doesn't make much.
Yeah, because you could explain it to them, right?
Yeah.
But it's probably too late then.
Yeah.
Now, is there such a, you hear about shark warnings, right? Do sharks tend to hang around in one area where if you guys see it, you then clear that area of the beach? How does that work?
Our protocol is if we have a shark sighting, a confirmed shark sighting, we will clear that entire area for that amount of time immediately. And then after that, we bring in our captain to do an assessment of the likelihood of that shark.
How often does that happen?
In my 10 years, I've never had to clear the water for a shark. So
Same with me. I don't think I've ever seen it happen.
Okay, extremely rare then.
yeah.
Absolutely.
But that is one of the things you're looking at when you're surveying the scene there.
Yes, it is on our mind. We are monitoring that.
Any other marine life issues that we haven't covered yet?
We have a lot of birds, and we recommend do not feed the birds.
Okay.
You need to let the birds, take part in their ecology and not contribute by feeding them. That's one
Is
thing
that
we've seen.
to benefit most of what we eat is barely healthy for ourselves, never mind for birds. So is
Yeah.
this like protection for the birds?
It's partially that, and then partially just it keeps our areas clean. Like when you have birds, when we're feeding birds, the birds understand where the food comes from, and then they flock to the same area where they wouldn't necessarily have gone before. So.
Yeah, I've noticed in areas where people continuously feed birds, the birds get kind of aggressive too.
Yeah, and territorial and such.
Start to say, hey, that's mine. It was mine yesterday, it's going to be mine today. You notice that in the harbor area, I guess, right, where there's a lot of outdoor eating.
Yeah.
And so they get used to it there.
Absolutely. They'll even, anywhere on the beach, they're in the summertime comfortable enough. If you leave like a bag of chips or a half-eaten sandwich on your towel, within a few minutes they'll be gone. They have no problem, coming up to your stuff on the beach while you're away, even 15 or 20 feet away, and rummaging through your bag trying to find food and stuff. So they know where it comes from, and they're definitely smart enough to try to go find it. So.
Okay. The other safety issue out there, of course, is the water itself. And we get a combination of people out here who are very familiar with the local area, like the surfers and the people who go out and swim every day, and tourists who maybe have never seen any part of the Pacific, never mind Oceanside's part of it. So let's sort of deal with this stuff in order. Are rip currents an issue on our beaches?
Absolutely. Anywhere you have moving water like that, you're going to have rip currents. There's a couple areas that we have a consistent rip currents. Any of the jetties or the pier that we have, there's always going to be a consistent backflow of water into the ocean, which is essentially a rip current. It's all the waves being washed up to the beach all day, and that water has to go somewhere, so that backflow of water into the ocean is a rip current. And it's tough in Oceanside to necessarily predict where they're going to be because we have a lot of sand bottom, so it could be in one area 1 minute and then move to another area the next. But being able to identify them is really the key to avoiding them.
And how you've given us one clue, it's near the pier. How do you identify the other ones that are randomly distributed out there?
They're mostly signified by there's a lot of brown murky water that's choppy, that'll be flowing. It's kind of a tough thing to see if you haven't noticed it before, but once you finally see one, there's a lot of brown murky water that's real choppy because it's flowing against the direction of all the waves coming into the beach. There's hardly going to be any waves in that area too because it's two forces that are meeting and basically canceling each other out. And I think that's usually you won't see people in them. So if you see a lot of people in one area, you maybe want to go over there because if the lifeguard's there, he's going to let the people be in the safe area. So.
Is this something that's easier for the lifeguard to see from the tower than it is for people in the water? Does it stand out more to you guys? Or?
It's definitely, it's evident to us as soon as we get to the beach in the morning. If we were to take a look at the water, we'd be able to identify them immediately. It's just kind of a thing it takes time to be able to know what you're looking for, but whether you're on the sand or in the water and stuff, it's evident as soon as you see one. You'll know, roughly if it looks like it could be a real dangerous one pulling really hard or pulling way out past the surf line, or if it's one that's kind of like not as dangerous as other ones. But.
So, if they're variable in the force, that means you could also get overconfident, right? So you could get in one and be able to handle it and then gain a level of confidence and think these things aren't so bad.
This is very true, and they really depend on the size of the waves or the size of the swell that day. So the larger waves we have, the more powerful the rip currents are going to be, just because there would be more water coming in with the waves, so it has to go back out.
Okay.
So,
and moving on to that subject of the waves, are people as respectful of that part of the ocean as they should be? I'm going to guess they're not.
Probably not. Yeah. The people don't understand the power and the ability that the waves have to really humble you. It's a very humbling experience to be out there and to feel comfortable and have a good time and enjoy the waves, and whether you're surfing or swimming or whatever, and find yourself in the wrong area when a set comes through or something, and it can unleash quite a bit of power on you. So,
yeah, one of the things I've noticed is that it's not about being a great swimmer or a weak swimmer. It's a different issue, right? From a safety standpoint.
Absolutely. It definitely helps if you're, a good swimmer and you get in a situation where you need to get out of, but probably the biggest thing is people being educated and being knowledgeable about where to go and what to do, what to look for, and in the event that they do get into a situation, knowing how to get out of that, or at least signal for help so that somebody can come and help them.
So let's get specific about that. What is the appropriate thing to do?
If you're stuck in rip current, swim parallel to the shore. You're not going to be able to overcome the forces of the water in swimming directly back. So you'd either want to swim to the north or south parallel to the shoreline, and eventually you'll make your way out of the rip current, and then you can swim back into shore. It might take a little bit longer initially than you would like to, but you got to remain calm and just keep swimming and make your way out of it, and then you'll make your way back into shore.
Okay. So that's important, because your initial instinct would be to try to get back to shore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're wasting your energy, in other words.
Correct. So as far as wasting energy, the biggest reason we have rescues is because of panic. So when someone gets in a rip current, they're moving away from shore, which is what they do not want to do. And so their heart rate increases, they start to get worried about their position, and they panic and try to fight it. So what we try to do is educate people in thinking through the process and understanding what's happening and being able to use the ocean to their advantage to get back in.
I would guess that the best thing to do, too, is to turn around, right? If you think you're encountering it, you don't know how wide it's going to be, right? So you would try and turn around to get out, again, where the instinct might be to get through it.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Is that the biggest cause of the need for rescue? Would you say, is it rip currents or panic in general?
Yeah, I would say rip currents put people in the most hazardous conditions on our beach. That's the main reason why we have to go pull people out. I mean, our primary job actually is to prevent that from ever happening. So when a lifeguard gets to his tower, we train them to understand the hydrology, to be able to immediately recognize rip currents, and then to go and post signs at those rip currents to try to educate people. And throughout the day, that lifeguard's going down, talking to people on the beach, talking to families before they get in the water, so we can avoid having to rescue them at all.
What are some of your other concerns? Is going out too far a concern? What are the things you look for to prevent the problem rather than executing the rescue?
Definitely. I mean, if people are, the further they swim out, if something happens, it makes it that much further that we have to travel before we can assist them if they need help. If people are going to want to go swimming, we prefer them to swim parallel to shore. A lot of people come down and like to swim around the pier, which is a great thing to do. They'll come up to us and let us know, hey, we're going to be swimming around a pier, which is real nice to do, and it's good actually, because there's a lot of people up there, so it's kind of like there's people always watching over you and making sure you're safe. But also when people get near the jetties or the pier, that creates a little bit of a hazard too, as far as like the rip currents we talked about. Then if they get carried into the rocks or into the pier, could also be a hazard for them.
Now, you guys have a flag warning system, correct?
Correct.
Let's go over that so people know exactly what's going on.
Okay, so we have 3 primary flags that we use. One is a yellow and black checkered flag, which delineates a boundary between the swim area and the surf area. And then there'll be a sign accompanied by that flag, which tells which side is swimming, which side is surfing. Then we also have a red flag, which means swimming is prohibited in that area. And then we have also a yellow flag with a black dot, which means surfing is prohibited in the swimming area.
the red flag, obviously, infrequently, very infrequently, could be the sharks. What's another reason for a red flag environment?
Signifying, we have a couple signs that are labeled for rip current, so we'll post them. Like Ian talked about, when they get there in the morning, they'll post their signs, and some of them will be labeled caution rip current on them, and they'll post them in that area. They're used to designate, like he said, the no swimming area, so they're posted on either side of the pier within 150 yards or so on each side, but mostly the rip currents and just the no swimming for general advisory to keep people out of the area for danger.
Now, is there a training program that people can take in advance, either online or in person, to learn some of this stuff and to go into even more detail?
There's copious amounts of information on the internet, obviously, as far as beach safety, but I would say the big thing, if you come down to the beach, find somebody that you can talk to, whether it's the lifeguard or maybe somebody that looks like they've been there frequently and kind of know how things work down there. But the internet's a great source. Lifeguards, if you see lifeguards on the beach or at our headquarters, feel free to come up and talk to us and ask us anything. We have a couple little pamphlets and stuff that we can give people that really helps them to enjoy their day safely at the beach.
All right, let's move on and talk a little bit about the structure of your operation down there. First of all, how many lifeguards are there?
Right now we have 6 permanent lifeguards and up to about 70 seasonal employees.
Is there a standard period of time, or does that you're on the beach, or does that depend on or not just the time you're there, but the quantity of lifeguards on any given day? Does that depend on how many people are there, or do you work a standard schedule?
Kind of both. So in the summertime, so basically from Memorial Day to Labor Day, we prepare ourselves with a schedule to handle a maximum capacity of people. And if we get there in the morning and it so happens that the beach isn't crowded or we have foul weather, we can then filter out and let people go home from our staff. But we try to make it so that we can handle the maximum amount of problems and cover the beach every day. Obviously during the winter we scale back our operation drastically just because the beach populations drop so much.
Now, it's no secret that the city of Oceanside has had numerous cutbacks in various areas because of income issues, the financial crisis. Have you guys experienced those cutbacks?
Certainly we have. And what we're doing is we're looking at our operation in terms of efficiency and ingenuity. And so what we're doing is making more efficient ways to cover greater areas of coastline in a safe manner. So we're basically just trying to do more with less.
Okay. And what's your judgment as to the safety level? Has it been compromised, or is it about the same because the efficiency programs have worked out?
I think for the most part, I think we're able to get by with what we have. It would be unfortunate to say that it's not enough, and hopefully we won't ever have to get to that point. We're making do with what we have now, and I think we've been successful in getting by with less people or less resources. And hopefully, it'll never get to the point where we need to scale people back up, because now we just don't have enough to take care of what's in front of us.
You are part of the fire department, correct? Mm-hmm. Yes. How does that interaction work? Do you ever trade back and forth, or tell me about that?
We run a specific program down at the beach as far as that's geared strictly towards lifeguards. There is interaction frequently on a daily basis with the different fire stations that are coming down, whether they're there to work out or say hi to us. There's a good number of firefighters that are ex-lifeguards that used to work in Oceanside, so there's a good overlap as far as the relationship. But on a daily operations, they're handling the fires and the serious medical aids and things like that, and we're working down on the beach where there are water-specific emergencies, and in the event that we need them, they're there for us. It's been great being able to work with them, and I think it's a good extension of the emergency system to be able to be used down at the ocean.
But the lifeguards are trained specifically to be lifeguards, and that's who we can expect to see down there.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, were either of you or both of you part of the junior lifeguard program? Is that how you got started?
I was the junior lifeguard, yes.
Okay. Well, why don't you answer this one then? It's been a long-time program. I trust it's continuing this year?
Yes, it'll definitely be here for the summer 2011, so and it's been around in Oceanside for quite a while now.
Tell us about the program. What can people expect to learn?
It's a program that's designed for kids roughly from the ages 9 to 17 to offer them experience down at the beach with beach safety and education, kind of like what we've been talking about today, just to become comfortable with the environment and being able to learn firsthand from our beach lifeguard staff of how the beach runs, how to stay safe, how to enjoy your time. And also we like to have a good time with the kids and play some games and stuff now and then too. So,
how is it structured as far as days of the week and hours?
We have 4 different sessions that we offer. The first 2 are a Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 4 weeks, and then on also a Tuesday, Thursday. So for 5 days a week for 4 weeks, we have 2 sessions going on, and then it repeats also with another Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and another Tuesday, Thursday session.
And how do kids sign up?
They can go online to the city's website, and we have a page on there with all the applications that can be downloaded, and you bring them down. You can either mail them into the city or bring them down to our headquarters, and we'll register them on our database that we have, and pretty much goes from there.
Should people self-limit sort of to join in this program only if they intend to be lifeguards, or do you think it has benefits for people who don't have that intention? Would they still benefit from this?
Absolutely. I think it would benefit not only the individual but also the people that they know. If it's we have kids all the way from as far east as Temecula that are in the program that don't really have any interest in becoming lifeguards, but it's crucial then when they come back to the beach on a day when they're not in junior lifeguards and they're able to talk to their friends that they're with or their families that they're with and say, when their buddy tells them, hey, let's go out in the water over here, and he says, you know what, I remember in our program we talked about we want to avoid that area because of whatever the reasons may be. So it's good to be able to educate the kids so that they can in turn talk to their families and talk to their friends and keep them safe, and it's a good opportunity for them also to meet other kids in Oceanside that enjoy hanging out at the beach.
Now, speaking of hanging out at the beach, there's a lot of people watching here. You guys have their dream job. So you're not just lifeguards, you're lifeguards in Southern California. So as far as career development, obviously junior lifeguard could be an important first step.
Absolutely.
Is it a mandatory first step?
It's not mandatory. I would say probably close to 70% of our staff, if not more, 75, maybe even 90% have been involved in some kind of junior lifeguard, whether it was Oceanside or Carlsbad or somewhere. So they've been involved in the junior lifeguarding program somewhere, and that's usually where kids at that young age will be like, this is I love being at the beach, I love the surf, I love hanging out. Why not get paid for it? And that kind of segues into them eventually trying out too. And
what is the next step after that? Is it an academy?
They can we have the junior lifeguard program, and then we also have, for the older kids that have been in there for a while, an assistant program, which is an unpaid position for the kids. They don't have to pay to be in the program, but they're also not being paid either. And those are for kids 15 to 17 years old that have had at least 1 year experience in there. Kind of there with the lifeguard 24/7, helping out with the group, setting up things when we go on workouts or whatever, if we're out in the water swimming, and being able to be with the lifeguard and help make rescues on whether it's junior lifeguards or other people in the water to get a real hands-on experience before they get into the lifeguarding aspect.
Gentlemen, we're out of time, believe it or not. Thanks for the information. You did a great job.
Thank you very much.
And thanks for doing a great job out there on the beach.
You're welcome.
Thank you for watching The Voice of Oceanside. This show will be available for your viewing at KOCT.org.